Good morning, brothers and sisters. Today, we're going to talk about 2 Kings chapter 12 a little bit. And it's a continuing story of a young man named Joash, right? He starts his reign at 7 years old, and he's the king of Judah, right? And if you remember, you had last time his crazy aunt, Queen Athaliah, killed off their entire family. He was hidden, given to the priests, and raised from the time he was an infant until he was done. Done is wrong. 7 years old. Then he was made king, right? And they killed Queen Athaliah, and everything was good. They rededicated the people, they rededicated the kingship to God, and everything was fine for a time, right? So chapter 12 starts off that Joash did what was right in the eyes of the Lord because Jehoiada the high priest instructed him, right? And so you don't hear that very often, like at all. You don't hear that. So that the whole did right because of, right? So Jehoiada was a high priest. Joash is a king. They're doing good. Joash comes through and he says, "Hey, I want to make repairs to the temple." Like, all right, cool. And he basically they put in a tax, and they collect money and collect money and collect money, but none of the repairs happen to the temple. So Joash, or Jehoash, as he's referred to in chapter 12, decides that they're going to go about it a different way, and instead of the priests taking the money, they're going to give it straight to the laborers. And it's about this time that Jehoiada, the high priest, dies. And after this, Joash kind of falls off the rails. And you don't really see a whole lot of this in 2 Kings chapter 12, but you see it in 2 Chronicles chapter 24, and the remainder of his story, and the kind of the highlights of his story. But to summarize it, he falls away from God, lets some other people get in his ear, makes some really bad mistakes, kills, ends up killing a couple of people, kills somebody, and God is not happy at this point with Judah, right? So he sends down Hazael, king of Syria, to fight them. Joash and people lose. They end up paying tribute, and it's a bad time. Now, one of the biggest things that we can take away from this story is when Jehoiada dies, we see a switch in Joash, right? So the start of the chapter, Joash did what was right in the eyes of the Lord because Jehoiada the priest guided his every step, right? He taught him, he instructed him, he did all of these things. But as soon as Jehoiada was out of the picture, Joash let all these other people come in, and the Bible says the princes of Judah came in, right? So all the little leaders of the towns came in and got in his ear and told him all of these things that he wanted to hear, wanted to do, and he fell away from God. He fell away from what he knew was right and did what he wanted to do instead. And to me, it speaks to the importance of having a biblical mentor. Having somebody in your life that's not afraid to challenge the way you're doing things or the way you're saying things, because it's not biblical, right? And that can be hard sometimes, especially for like a priest and a king. That can be very difficult, because if you go to 2 Chronicles and actually find out like what the rest of Joash's story is, he killed the son of Jehoiada, the high priest, because he was a priest speaking out against Joash. He was saying, "You guys need to stop this. You guys need to stop what you're doing and turn back to God." And they stoned him, right? So he forgot where he came from entirely, right? Joash, from a young boy who was going to be murdered, by his crazy aunt, who was saved, given to the high priests, raised by Jehoiada. And then when Jehoiada dies, he kills his son? Like, dude totally forgot where he came from. So, I mean, you got two really good lessons to take away from this chapter. Like, one, find yourself somebody that is not afraid to challenge you in a biblical way, right? Not afraid to say, hey, man, that's not right. That's not right. You know it's not right. You need to turn away from that. You don't need to do this, right? And the second one is, like, be careful who you hang around with, right? Because as soon as Jehoiada was gone, the princes of Judah came down and they started getting in Joash's ear, and he listened to them. And even though Joash had been raised by the priests, raised in the temple, knew the law, knew all of these things, he fell away because of the influences of the prince of Judah. And he even forgot the amazing testimony that he had in his life because of these guys, right? So be careful who you're hanging out with. Be careful who you're letting influence your life, and who you're letting in, what you're letting into your body, what you're letting into your mind, because you may not see it, but it will affect you, and it'll make you do some stupid things, guys. So just some food for thought. Love you guys. Have a great day.